Leave me all on red, that's some cold. Then you hit me late at night, you some bold arrows, yeah. But you already know that, yeah. And I love it when you throw that, yeah. Shawty, where you sold at, baby, where you goes at.
Hi everybody, welcome back to today's video. I wanted to bring back my little wine and wisdom segment that I used to have on my podcast. So we're gonna do that today. I'm drinking a rosé. It is super good. I've got my original mic back, so we've got our audio situated. So yeah, guys, I'm gonna just take you through the story time of my first relationship. How toxic it was. I think this is just going to be part one. I think I'm gonna have multiple parts because I just want to make story times a series on my channel. Obviously, my story time video has been doing the best. That's where a lot of you guys, I think 750 of you subscribed from that video alone. So I figured I'd make a little story time segment, but without further ado, grab your wine, grab your sparkling whatever, your mocktail, whatever you're drinking, grab a snack and let's get into it. Okay, so for this story time, we are going to name my ex, John. It's gonna be something easy I can remember. It's got nothing to do with his real name, so I think it's a safe bet. John and I met towards the end of my sophomore year in high school. It was just like your typical, we started talking on Snapchat, and pretty quickly into us talking, we hung out for the first time. And when I tell you, I ignored every single red flag of this relationship. I'm notorious for ignoring red flags. Hopefully one of these days I get it right and I stop ignoring all of these red flags, but I ignored every red flag, okay? So let's just get into our first official hangout. Basically, at this time, this person kind of was just floating around through family members. He was burning bridges, low key. And I was under the impression that he had graduated early. That's what he told me. So, here I was thinking I got myself a smart little cookie. I learned on later that he actually never graduated high school. He got expelled and he never went back. But I didn't know this at the time, so I just thought, okay, he's chilling out, maybe planning his next steps before college, no biggie, okay? So at this time, he was living with his sister and her, I don't think they were married at the time, fiance. Maybe, I don't even know if they were engaged yet, but they would eventually get married. He was living with her, okay? So I drive over, I'm all excited. At this time, my mom was so chill. She was so excited for me to start dating because I was a baby, guys. I was so innocent. I had only had one kiss. It was in 8th grade. That's a story time for another video. And I was just very naive. And looking back, this person really played on that. He had been in, a relationship, a very serious relationship. So his favorite thing was to tell me that I didn't know what I was talking about because I had never been in a relationship before. Whole time, I was the most mature one in this relationship. But anyways, we meet. Everything goes well. He had bleached his hair a really obnoxious shade of yellow blonde. So he wore a beanie the first month and a half of us getting to know each other and dating. And yeah, so honestly, the first time we hung out, it was just kind of everything kind of worked. We just watched movies and everything, a little Netflix and chill, but not too much, not doing the most, I was still my young self. And everything had went pretty well. Until his sister came home, and I guess he was not supposed to be having company or something. So yeah, the end of our first little hangout kind of went a little awry, but overall it was good. We kept talking, and eventually, I honestly don't, actually I do remember. After probably like 6 weeks, it was around Valentine's Day. Oh my gosh, I swear I'm just notorious for having the worst possible Valentine's Day. It was on Valentine's Day, okay? He takes me to Jewel. We go into Jewel, and when I tell you this was the most unromantic shit ever, he sat there, we go through the flowers. He was like, pick out some flowers you like. Okay, I picked out some red roses. And this man had the audacity to tell me to pick out a card. Pick out a card you like. Like, are you serious? This is all shit you should have done. You should have went and bought me flowers, bought me chocolates, bought me my teddy bear and my card, and you should have wrote a nice message, but no. Okay, so here I am, like, thinking this is the most romantic shit ever. Looking back on it, it was just so sad. Like, why am I picking out my Valentine's Day gifts? Okay, so right by this Jewel, there is, like, a McDonald's. We literally, like, pull up to the McDonald's. He, you know, like, gifts me everything that I just picked out for myself, and he asks me to be his girlfriend. I stupidly say yes. That was kind of the end of that. We ended up like picking up his friend, and we all just hung out for the rest of the night. So yeah, here I am, like, oh my gosh, like, so romantic. It was so, it's sad. So fast forward, guys, this relationship was a lot of love bombing from the very beginning. He was very interested too soon, I feel like, you know, and like he said, I love you really soon into the relationship, and I was here for it. I soaked up that love bombing, like, oh my gosh, like, this is the man I'm going to marry. I've always been one of those people, guys. When I've gotten into a relationship, I feel like I have always been, I don't know, I was raised in a very conservative household, and I've always, in a way, told myself I was dating to marry, knowing damn well that these were not people God had sent me. I was delulu. I was a little bit delulu, okay? So I thought, like, yeah, like, this is the person we're gonna be together forever. You know, like, your first love, you just kind of imagine building your life together. And I did that, you know, and like, he was just a love bomber. He was a master love bomber, and there were a lot of little things. For example, his previous relationship, he said it ended because she was unfaithful. You know, he talked all of this shit about her very early on, always. And one of my red flags in relationships are people who talk the most shit about their ex-partner. Because truthfully, in my experience, a lot of times their story is complete bullshit. Okay? And honestly, he just talked so much shit about her and how she ruined him as a person, this, that, and the other. And what I didn't know at the time was everything he said was a lie. He had been sleeping with this person most of our relationship. His friends were in on it. Everyone was in on it. And I was completely blindsided. And something that I noticed one day, I was on Instagram, and I don't know why, you know, your intuitive thoughts just get you sometimes. And I sat there and I was like, let me look up this girl. And I go on my Instagram and I'm searching her name. We'll call her Rat. We'll call her Rat because her face kind of looked like a fucking rat. I'm not gonna lie. But anyways, I am like looking for her and I can't find her. Nothing's coming up. So tell me why something in me told me to look through my blocked list. I look through my blocked list and there she is. She's blocked. And so is this other account, which was like her best friend. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, I have never blocked her. Like, this is the first time I'm even looking for her account. So I had known at this point that he went through my phone early on and blocked her. The nerve, the audacity. And when I tell you this person used his previous relationship and his relationship experience as a reason to brainwash the fuck out of me, he really did. And early on, he told me, like, you know, like, if we have no secrets, we should be able to go through each other's phones. He had my password for everything. Instagram, Snapchat. He had my phone password. And obviously, I had nothing to hide ever. And I didn't think he did either. So I never went through his phone until very later on in the relationship. I never went through his phone. I never felt a reason to. He would log into my Snapchat. He would be posting shit on my story when I was out of town. Like, just like toxic shit. Anyways, when I had found out that he had blocked this girl, I confronted him about it. And I was like, why would you do that? You know, and essentially he chopped it up to be that it was all for my protection. You know, he didn't want her trying to start shit, you know, and he just felt like it would be better if I was blocked and she couldn't reach out to me. Now, I know the real reason was later on we would break up for literally like a 2-week period. And during this 2-week period, looking back on it, the only reason he broke up with me was because this girl had asked him to go on this like skiing, snowboarding trip with her and her family, or whoever it was she went with. And he broke up with me so that he could do that. This person was a major opportunist. He was one of those people that would go wherever he felt like he could milk you. He could get whatever it was he was needing at the time. And that was what a lot of the relationship was. You know, it was him being in a toxic space with his family, oftentimes not really being able to maintain a job. And I realize now I feel like personally stayed in the relationship because I was willing to do everything for him. And this story time, guys, in case you don't know, has nothing to do with finding out he cheated on Valentine's Day. That is my most recent relationship. This is my very first relationship that scarred me for fucking ever. But I'm finally at a place where I'm no longer emotionally attached to the situation, so I can go through the story and not feel like it's as fresh. Whereas this previous relationship, obviously very fresh, it just ended recently, and so it's just been a lot, you know. But this one, I've spent enough time. This person has showed me who he is multiple times. But yeah, anyways, on with the story. So, you know, after that, you know, he explains it away as he was just trying to protect me, and I don't question it. I think nothing of it. I hadn't found out about his little trip until later. Okay, so our relationship continues. He meets my family. My family did not fucking like him, with good reason. They always just felt like I brought so much more to the table. And at this point, I was literally like going into my junior year. Like, I was a baby, and they still saw like I remember like my dad sat there and they had a conversation that I was not privy to. They had a private conversation. But my dad later filled me in on what was said, and he basically said, my daughter is going places, okay? She's going places in life, and I don't need her to have any distractions that are going to get in the way of that and bring her down. And, you know, he sat in front of my father. I don't know what his exact response was, but in so many words, he told him, like, he understood and that he was going to, you know, do everything he could to make me happy. And something I noticed early on, I loved his family. To this day, I love his family. I love his siblings. I love his mom. He was raised by a great person. And I'm not saying that his family dynamic was perfect, but when I tell you they accepted me as a part of the family, like, I've never felt closer to anyone's family than I had his. And it gave me a lot of reassurance, because literally every time I saw them, they were just so kind. They treated me like, honestly, like I felt like I had a second mom in his mom. And when we went through shit, you know, like, it was not always pretty. There were days where he would be screaming at me, you know, and he had a room in the basement, and, you know, I would just like come upstairs. He would fucking chase after me and be screaming, and like in the house full of his siblings and his family, and like she would sit down with me and she would be like, Alyssa, like, what's going on, you know? And like, one thing I noticed looking back on it was that when I came around his family and his family friends, more often than not, they all asked me what I saw in him. Like, why are you with him? You know, and it was something in the moment. I was like, you know, like, I love him. I see the potential in him. You know, I think he has an opportunity to go far places in life. I don't know. I must have pulled that shit out of my ass, because not once did I look at this man and think that he had the potential to be great. Like, it sounds really rude and straightforward, but if you would have seen this person where he was in life, how he presented himself, it was just very, I don't want to say beneath me, but at the same time, I can genuinely look back on this relationship and see that I understand where they were coming from, because I had my life together back then. And I was a baby, okay? And I had so many goals for myself. I was doing everything I could to better my life. I was going on, like mission trips. I was volunteering in my church. I made a Bible study at my local junior high, and I would go and I would spend time with these kids. And like, I just had such a drive and a passion for doing more with my life. And he had no vision. He had absolutely no vision. When my dad sat and asked, like, what do you see in my daughter? Why do you want to be with her? He literally gave like no answer. It was like an I don't know, like she's really good to me, a bunch of bullshit. And my dad was sitting there thinking like, like you're failing, you're constantly failing. And that was another thing, guys. Every time he came around my family, he was very rude. He was very rude. I'm someone where if you bring me around your family, my phone is away. I am 110% here. I'm present. I'm going to communicate. I'm going to, build relationships with your family, because I understand that your family is a huge part of our relationship and vice versa, because your family has not shaped you, but a lot of your life is shaped around your family dynamic. So I took his siblings in like my own. And that was another thing. He was so rude to his siblings. His siblings, to this day, I have them on social media, well, at least his sister, and the most genuine people I had ever met. And I think a big part of why I stayed in this relationship for as long as I did, with all of the shit that I was going through with him, was because I took them in as my siblings, and I treated them like they were a part of my family, and I felt that big sister role. And every time I went there, I just felt like they were so happy to see me, like I had them come over to my parents' house, and like swim and everything, and he was just always so selfish with them, where it's like he didn't want me to be too nice to them. He didn't want them to be around my family. He didn't want my family to accept them into our lives, so like that day specifically when they were allowed to come over, come swim, have fun, do whatever you want. He was like very controlling, like, no, like don't ask for too much. Don't do this, don't do that. My parents are very giving people. And, it was one of those things like, yeah, have them over, they can have whatever they want. What snacks do they want? My mom was like pulling out all the snacks, like help yourself, because she's a mom and that's just who she is. And John was just sitting there constantly, like, in their ear, like, don't do this, don't do too much, don't yell too loud, and I'm sitting there like, stop. Like, let them be kids for once. Let them be kids. And they had all been through so much in their family dynamic, and I'm not going to go into that because that's none of my business, it's none of your business, but they had been through so much that I felt such a genuine soft spot for them, and they were amazing children. Like, amazing. They were amazing people. All of them, all three of them individually, and his older sister were some of the best people I have ever met, and I stand by that to this day. They're amazing people. Were they always perfect? No. But I always felt like as a big brother, it was his responsibility to shed some loveness and like some loveness, shed love and kindness. And like, why do you treat them like this? Like, they look at you like you are the most important thing in their world, even when you treat them like shit. Like, they seek validation from you and you constantly tear them down. You are such an asshole, And we got into a lot of fights about this because, like, how are you going to treat your family like this? Your siblings, like, they've done nothing to you but be born, okay? And he was one of those that I feel like was always very jealous of his siblings and jealous of the attention they received and how his childhood was so much worse and they were so spoiled, when in reality he was the most spoiled person I had ever met. Ever. He got constant handouts, constant opportunities, everyone in his life trying to help him move forward and make progress in his life. And it's like he took everything as just like a personal attack, that his life was so bad and his family treated him so bad and he was the black sheep of the family. excuse me, when in reality, everyone went to bat for him. Everyone gave him chance after chance after chance. And he just blew it every time, being selfish and being self-centered and living his life for himself. And it was just so sad to me. But anyways, guys, the relationship continues after I find that he, blocked these girls. I obviously unblocked them because I'm like, why the fuck did you ever do that? Like, okay, whatever. I moved forward. I'm in like the love bombing phase still. I'm listening to everything he says to me, everything he says a relationship should look like. I'm like, all right, like, you're right. I've never been in a relationship. I don't know how this works. Yeah, you can have my passwords. You can have this. You can have that. And I tell you, he did this because he knew who I was. He knew the trust I had in him, and he knew I would have never went through his phone. And I never did. I never once logged into his Snapchat, his Instagram, his nothing. I never went through his phone. Ever. And I'm still that kind of person. I will not go through your phone. Obviously in my last story time, I asked him before I went through his phone because that's not who I am. I was not raised that way. Your property is your property, and I understand no secrets in a relationship, but at the end of the day, I'm never going to go through your shit without you knowing. It's just not who I am. And honestly, looking back on both of these situations, I will not ever go through another phone again. Cheat in peace. Leave me the fuck alone. I don't want to see it. I don't want to read about it. I don't want to see the depths that you went to cheat with somebody else. I don't want it anymore. If I feel the urge to go through your phone, I think our relationship just needs to be done because you've showed me something that makes me feel like you're hiding something. I will never go through another phone again. Ever. Ever again. But anyways, our relationship continues. And something I've noticed about this person as we're getting closer and closer is he's very controlling. And he was the definition of, I'm going to accuse you of cheating because that's what I'm doing. And when I tell you, I genuinely, with my whole heart, never did anything. I didn't text another guy. I did absolutely nothing to ever make this person feel like I was not faithful. Ever. Like, not a single thing. And I can say that, like, hand on my heart, hand on the Bible. I never did anything in this relationship to make him feel like I was cheating on him. Yet constantly, he was always accusing me of it. And the sad part is during this time, I had been going through some things, some personal things, and I don't know if I'm ever going to have a story time on it because I did a long time ago. I posted it. It did well, but I don't know if it's something that I'm ready to share with the internet, especially now that I have some of you who are active and you're in my comments and, we're building, we've got our group chat, like it's something I don't know if I'll ever come on here and share. But I was going through some things, and I had shared certain experiences with him, certain traumatic experiences with him. And it's like, I regret it to this day. Because when I tell you, like, guys, do not share your trauma. Just don't. It sounds so shitty. It sounds like it moves 5 steps back in healing. Don't show someone the ways that your heart has been broken, the ways that you've experienced betrayal. Don't share that too soon, because you are seriously showing this person exactly how to hurt you. And I shared these experiences with him, and it was like from there on, there was a shift in who he was to me. And it's like he was disgusted with me. That's what it felt like. And every argument we ever got into ended up being over these things. And, it was over, I don't know how to word it, a sexually traumatic experience that I had with a person, not that was close to us, but a person that we mutually knew. And I explained that to him, and it was honestly in a way to show him why I hadn't been in a relationship yet and why I was so scared to get attached to a person. And like the first time we talked about it, he was okay. He was, kind, he was respectful, he wasn't an asshole. But it was almost like me sharing that with him just gave him fuel, and that was something that he constantly used in all of our arguments when he had been dead wrong for for doing things that he did, he would use that experience as an excuse. And he would be like, no, you got yourself in a situation where this happened. You're naive. You're naive. How can I trust your judgment if you took these steps to get yourself in this predicament? You know, and like the way he said it, he used to be so degrading and so honestly like evil in his words. The things he would say to me over an experience I felt like was helping him understand why I was the way I was. Because if I'm going to be 100% honest, sex was not something I was comfortable with off rip. I was not. Everything that had happened was too fresh. I was not ready for sex. And he was very much one of those people who was like, sex. Like, sex is the most important thing in a relationship. Don't ever let a man tell you that. Don't ever let an immature little boy tell you that sex is the most important thing in a relationship. It's not. And I felt like me sharing that part of me would help him to understand why I wasn't ready. And we had only been dating for a couple of months. It wasn't even that crazy. Looking back on it, it kind of breaks my heart that I didn't stand firm in my boundaries, because the night that it had finally happened, it was like all him. It was like, I'm not even going to go into details, but it was something that he pushed, and I just kind of sat there and suffered through it. And, you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to sit here and be like, you know, he R'd me. No, it wasn't that. It was just, I explained to him firmly why my boundaries were what they were. I wasn't comfortable with it. And it was something where, like, if you're not comfortable with this, I don't see myself being in a relationship with you because it's so important. I've been in relationships. I know how this works. You don't. And so I just kind of let it happen. And that ended up kind of being the trajectory of our relationship intimately. But it was hard. Because, like I said, I shared those things with him, hoping that he would understand and respect my boundaries more, and it just made him want to impeach on them more. And over the course of our relationship, every single time, somehow, some way, he would use what I shared with him as an excuse to be just vile. And he would always constantly tell me, like, you gross me out. Like, I picture it in my head, and like a part of me feels like you probably enjoyed it, and this and that, and like shit that he said to me were things that I honestly hadn't even said to myself. And it's sad because after those words came out of his mouth, it made me feel like I was less than, and like my value as a person in a relationship would always be less than because I was tainted, when in reality my experience was unwarranted, unwilling, didn't ask for it. He had been out here sleeping with God knows who, you know, just to do it. And I felt like at the time, I didn't see how unfair it was for him to come at me over one situation when he quite literally belonged to everybody and had no sense of just standard. You know, but he used that, I feel, as a way to tear me down and to keep me in a constantly, like, wanting to make him happy. Like, I would do anything for him. Anything. I was nannying at the time, and I was making good money. Back in high school, I used to get $20 an hour for nannying. And, you know, I was, like, nannying, and I would spend my entire paycheck on us. I would let him drive my car. He would never put gas in it, you know. And it was sad because he would literally leave me at his house to go and hang out with his friends and get food and come back. My car would be like basically on E, and it was just like, that's just what I thought a relationship was. I didn't see anything wrong with it. Looking back on it, never again, never would I ever. Never would I ever. If you don't have a car, we're not even talking. Don't even come to me with that bullshit, because no, I'm too grown for that. But at the time, I allowed him so much access to everything. And it was just sad because he was constantly a person that was like biting the hand that feeds you. You know, where like if he didn't have dinner, I would come over. You know, I'll bring you food. I'll order you food. What do you want? even when I wasn't there. What are you hungry for? You know, like, because he'd be constantly using the guilt trip, and he would text and be like, oh, I'm so hungry. There's no food in the house. My mom hasn't went shopping. I'd be like, what do you want? I'll order it. He didn't even have to do anything, and I would provide for him just because I loved him. And I've realized that's a part of me that I don't know how to get rid of. I constantly give more than I'm able to give just to make someone happy. And looking back on this entire relationship, I think he used me in a lot of ways. For my car, for the fact that he never had to pay for anything. When we went to prom, my parents paid for his tux. And it was so sad because we knew he didn't have a job, he couldn't afford it, and he had us all in such like a mental guilt trip that my dad called me and he said, Pie Face, which is what he calls me, Pie Face, I'm sending you money for this tux. Please give John the card and let him pay for it, because I understand how a male's perspective is, and he's gonna feel very small if you pay for it. Just give him the card and let him pay. And it's so sad because they did so much for this person, even hating, not even hating, but they really did not like him because he was so disrespectful. He always came over on his phone, giving half-ass answers, coming over high as shit, just so disrespectful to my parents. And they did a lot for him, just out of wanting to see me happy and from the kindness of their own hearts. So that day I like looked at him and I was like, here's the card, you know, it's got enough money on it, we can pick whatever tuxedo you want, and you know, like let's get it. And we go in and you know, we pick like an all black, you know, everything, and everything was good. I give him the card, you know, he pays. It's like whatever, you know, I'm not gonna make a big deal out of it. I don't want you to feel less than or inferior just for this man to ruin my whole entire prom. Y'all, fast forward to prom. First of all, I get his tux is ready. I get like the text. I go, I pick it up for him. I bring it all the way over to his aunt's house where he was staying at the time. I give it to him and he's like complaining. He's complaining that it doesn't fit right, that it doesn't look nice. Like the audacity of this man to complain. And it was not cheap. Like, we rented a tux and I think it was like at least $250. Like, you know, and my family bought the prom tickets, both prom tickets. He didn't buy anything. He did not buy anything. And he barely asked me to prom. But anyways, I drop off his tux. I'm super excited because I'm thinking he's gonna be like, oh my gosh, like I'm so excited for this. No. Immediately he has shit to say. He's just like such an asshole. For no reason. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like the way it fits. It makes him look stupid, blah, 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 this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, like, I don't know what the fuck to tell you, okay? Because, like, prom is in 2 days. Like, fuck, suck it up, okay? Fast forward to prom. At this time, our house was under construction because a pipe had burst, and it was just crazy. Our house basically had to be redone from the inside out. So we were staying in a hotel. My dad was home. He was in the hotel room right next to me. Excuse me, my mom and sister were out of town for a cheer competition. So I called one of my brother's ex-girlfriends, who is like a big sister to this day. I love her. She's a gem. Her name is Kayla. I'm not going to block her name out because she is one of the best people I've ever met. She came all the way over so last minute because I had gotten my period on prom. And I was like, oh my gosh, Kayla, it's my prom day. I'm getting ready. I can't put my dress on. I don't have any tampons. Can you please bring me some? And she did. She brought me tampons. She came. She helped me get ready. She like posted such adorable videos and she was like, she looks gorgeous. She's this, she's that. Like my heart melts to this day because my relationship was so shitty. And she came like any big sister would, and she saved the day. She brought me tampons, she helped me get ready, and she stayed for all of my prom pictures. She took so many pictures of me. Like, to this day, that's a moment I will never forget, ever, because she had no responsibility for me. She did not have to come. Her and my brother had been broken up for so long, and like she was the one who was done wrong. And yet she still treated me like family. She came, she saved the day. Like, she is genuinely, to this day, one of the best people I know. So Kayla, if you ever watch this, just know I fucking love you. And like, you are a sister for life in my eyes, because I'm the big sister. I never had a big sister, but I felt like I had one in her, and she was just wonderful. And she took like all the roles of like mom, bestie, just everything. She came, she took my prom pictures, and it was amazing. Okay, so we go to prom pictures. We're taking pictures, and the whole time John was just very insecure in himself, in how he looked. He thought he looked stupid. I'm just excited to be going to prom. It's my junior year. It ended up being the only prom I got because my senior year was COVID. We didn't get a prom. I was so excited. I had picked out my dress in Atlanta. My mom like picked it out for me. It was beautiful. It was champagne. It was everything. I don't have any pictures of that day anymore because I deleted all of them, but I was so excited. And I think that's the saddest part. I was so excited. And had he just been in the moment with me and enjoyed it, like, it would have made me the happiest girl in the world. But we get on the bus, we have like our mutual friends, the people we're sitting at our table with. One of the people who was there was just wonderful. He was gay. We're gonna call him we'll call him Max. Such a gem. He was going with one of our close friends. Just, they were such a vibe. So I was like, okay, like, he has someone in our prom table that he knows, someone that he's friends with, you know, like, we're gonna be good, you know, we're gonna have a great time. I'm excited. And as soon as we get to prom, we sit at our table, and it's like, I don't know what got the best of him, but he was such an asshole. He was so rude. He kept saying my friends weren't making him feel welcome, weren't making him feel included. When I tell you, my friends did everything they could that night to make everyone feel included. Like, my friend group from high school is the friend group I have now, and they did everything they could to make him feel included and welcome. And he was just so insecure in his own mind that he felt like they were going out of their way to make him feel uncomfortable. And he was stressing me out so much because I wanted to spend time with my friends and I wanted to spend time with him. So, like, they were dancing on the dance floor. He didn't want to dance. So my friends were like, all right, like, you don't want to dance, sit there, fine. But, like, our bitch is going to have fun. They dragged me to the dance floor. I danced with them. I have fun. Just for him to be sitting there, literally, he was sitting there, like, the entire night. Like, just so pissy, so pissed off. I come over, of course, because I'm always catering to his needs, and I sat and I was like, what's wrong? Like, what's the matter? Aren't you having fun? And he was like, no, like, I don't feel welcome here. I'm gonna call my friend and he's gonna pick me up. And he's literally on the phone with someone telling them to pick him up. And I'm sitting here like, you can't do that, first of all. Like, my high school does not allow that. You came here, you are their responsibility for the next few hours. You cannot have someone come pick you up. Like, that's not how this shit works, okay? I understand you dropped out of high school, but here we have rules and you cannot just fucking leave. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like, can we not just have one good night? Like, I don't do anything to make you feel this way. But he was so insecure. He was so insecure that he had to do the absolute most. And I, like, sat there and he's, like, on the phone with, you know, his whoever was on the phone to come pick him up. I am, like, just so upset. And my dress, like, it ended up, like, something tore on it. So it was, like, not clipped. So I have to go up to our fucking, she wasn't the principal. She was, like, the vice principal? I don't know, the second lady, you know, and I don't remember what they're called, but I had to go, and she helped me. She had, like, safety pins. They fixed my dress, and I go to the bathroom, and I'm just, like, trying not to cry, because, like, this is, like, prom. It's my prom. It's supposed to be so fun and so exciting, and, like, he's ruining it for no reason. Like, I didn't do anything to him. My parents went out of their way to buy the prom tickets, buy his prom tux, like, everything, and still had the respect for him to make him feel like, you know, he was the one who did it, you know. And I'm, like, sitting here like, what the fuck? Like, what did I do to make this night so bad? And then, like, I honestly, guys, this next part, I forgot completely. I don't even remember this conversation. But one of my close friends, it was her mom. She was like, helping chaperone prom. And I didn't remember this conversation until I sat down with my friend a little while ago, and she told me. But this conversation went like this, and her mom, like, she looked at me and she was like, are you okay? Like, you just look unhappy. You look sad. Like, I see sadness in your eyes. It's like the brightness that you usually have is gone. Like, are you okay? And I guess I just sat there and I was like, yeah, you know, it just is what it is. I don't remember what I said because I don't remember this conversation, but she remembered it. And, you know, obviously she told her daughter, who told me, but it was just like, it was so sad because I didn't recognize how broken and empty I was. Because when I tell you guys, like, he picked a fight with me every other night, and he was dropped out of school. He had all of this time. I was, you know, in National Honor Society. I was running my Bible study. I was volunteering at church every single Sunday for hours. Like, I didn't even have the time to be on the phone arguing with him. He would keep me on the phone until 3 a.m. And if I ever wanted to end the call, he would call me right back and be like, if we don't finish this conversation, we're breaking up, blah, blah, blah. And I thought I was so in love with him. But in reality, it was just like he loved bombed me so hard from the beginning and then completely changed his colors. And he would keep me up, I kid you not, like 4 nights out of the week until like 3 a.m. I would wake up at 5:45, 6 to get ready for the next day. And it's like I would go to school and obviously I look like I'm fucking destroyed because I am. Because mentally and emotionally, I'm going through so much, but I don't feel comfortable enough talking to anyone about it because this is my first relationship. And like, I don't want anyone to have any negative thoughts because most of the people around me did not like him, you know? So I never wanted to paint him in a picture that made them not like him more because they already just didn't like who he was, how he was towards me, the way he like overdid PDA just to almost like, he just made everyone uncomfortable, and I was uncomfortable with it. And like, he just didn't know how to fucking be normal and how to just be who he was because he didn't like who he was as a person, because who he was as a person was shitty and gross and like he wasn't a good person. And he treated me so bad. And he destroyed me mentally and emotionally to the point where I didn't even feel like I was in a bad relationship. I just had at that point accepted that everything he argued with me about, everything that he told me was this, that, and the other, I accepted that it was my fault. And I got really used to apologizing for things that I didn't do wrong. And I was still loyal to him. I allowed him access to my life in ways that nobody ever should. I allowed him to not only be verbally abusive and manipulative, I allowed him to do things that I regret to this day. And it's just like, it's crazy. I used to house sit, and I house sat for a really close friend, and he found a way to manipulate me into letting him throw a party, and like, that's a whole nother story time, y'all. And it was bad. It was so bad. He would not listen to me no matter what, when this was my responsibility. This was the house I was watching. He had no right here. He had no right to invite the people that he did. And the people that he did invite, y'all, I need a separate story time for that, because when I tell you he had the ops in my house, like the people who were a part of the circle that just destroyed me, he invited them over. Like, just so much shit, y'all. And to this day, I am still friends with the girl of the house that the party was at. They never told my parents. They were honestly like some of the best, most generous, kind people ever. They never told my parents. They never even made it a big deal. I like would see them later in life, and they acted like nothing happened, thank God. But it was just the fact that he was willing to put me in a situation that could destroy everything. And, you know, like, I would always be the one to take the fall for it. And that was a constant in our relationship, whether it was at the time, you know, like the car that I drove wasn't mine. It was my parents. I would let him drive it, and I would get in trouble later for allowing him to drive it. And like, just simple shit that he just didn't care. He would use and use and use and use. And it was like, the sad part was that he would just lie. He would just lie. Like, that night he threw that party at the house, he told everyone it was his house. He told everyone, like, that's where he lives, and like, his parents did this and that. That was bullshit. He wouldn't even be there if it wasn't for me. And like, the sad part was, I was upstairs, like, fucking losing my mind because every time I told him, get all of these people out of this fucking house, he would not listen to me. He would not listen. He'd be like, well, they don't have anywhere to go. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. This is not your house. I have a responsibility. They said I could have you over, not all of your fucking whack ass friends, okay? And now you're putting me in a situation where, like, this is wrong. And I feel wrong. And I sat upstairs this final night. He threw like a huge party. I was upstairs sitting here like what the fuck? Like, I begged you to kick these people out. I fucking went downstairs and told him everyone needs to fucking leave, and 30 minutes later they're down there drunk doing whatever the fuck they want, drinking alcohol that's not theirs, making me look like a completely shitty person. And I sat in that room and he came up to check on me. And it's sad because one of my good friends at the time, I thought she was my good friend, we're not friends anymore, she came up and I just sat there and I was like, get them out. Like, get them out. Do you understand the position you are putting me in right now? I did not even tell you you could have a party, you could throw a party, you could do shit. I went to work, guys. I went to work this day. I had to babysit. I went to work. I come back late at night because I used to nanny for date nights and things like that. I come back, it's late at night. There's these cars in the driveway. I walk in, there are people I don't even know. And I look at him and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, I went to work for so many hours and this is what you thought you could do? For something that has nothing to do with you, a house that you have no responsibility for, that is all on me? And like, the worst part was, after all of this was over, after all of it was over, the girl whose house I was house sitting for, she didn't even come to me at first. She went to like our other friends and like, she tried. I could tell. I love her so much because she tried to not make me feel bad. And she was like, yeah, like my parents, you know, they saw like there was like weed in the windowsill. And, you know, we figured out that like the alcohol bottles, because they had filled them up with water, were watered down. And like, I felt so bad and so embarrassed. And like, it's terrible because they fucking left me to clean up this shit. And I was the one who took responsibility for it. I was the one who was like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have done it. I took the fall for it, knowing that I had done absolutely nothing. The only thing I did was invite him over, and everything he did after that, him and his little friends, because they honestly had the same level of responsibility, but they didn't care. They didn't give a fuck about me. They gave no fucks about me. They only cared about themselves. And they left the house terrible. They said that they cleaned it up. I got home and I had to do so much. And I was just like, y'all really had me looking stupid. And I got to school the next day and I was so mad at his little best friend. And it was just like, because like, how dare you? How dare you? Like, the same best friend, he needed a place to stay because he had shit going on in his house. I allowed him to sleep downstairs on like one of my last nights there, after I was already beyond pissed off about the situation they had put me in, the fact that they're throwing a party in a house that's not theirs. I still allowed him to spend the night downstairs because he was going through shit with his family. I come downstairs, he's left like pizza boxes, he didn't clean up shit. It was just like, this whole relationship, guys, was me being used over and over and over and over again. And I hate the person that I was during this relationship because it wasn't me. And I allowed him to have so much control over my life that he dictated just who I was as a person. And it's the worst part of my life, guys. If I look at everything that I've been through since then, this particular relationship, I hated myself. Looking back on it, I hated who I was. Who I was a shell of the person I am, and not in a good way. And I can take accountability in that. I was not a good person during this time, not in the ways that I should have been. And looking back on it, obviously I was going through a lot of shit. And I wish I could make you guys understand the extent of it. When I tell you, like, verbally abusive, emotionally, at times like physically and like just little shit. He would throw shit at me, and like he would just get so mad he would fucking like forget. He would forget who he was when he was mad. And I was just so, my self-confidence was destroyed. I didn't feel like I could be someone without him. Because after I had shared that experience with him, he always told me, like, you're lucky I'm here. You know how many people wouldn't deal with that? You know how many people wouldn't want a girlfriend who has been through that? And, like, I believed him. He was my only relationship. I believed that his knowledge equated to all of the knowledge of the world. And I thought that he stood firm in a stance that every guy took. And it's really sad because I sat there and I genuinely felt like everything he told me was true. I felt like my body was disgusting because of what had happened. I felt like, nobody would ever want me again. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry guys. Nobody would ever want me in any way, in any capacity, because what had happened to me was so disgusting and so gross that nobody could ever look past it. That was bullshit. It was a complete lie, and it was something that took me a very long time to get past, and I think it made my previous relationship even harder when I found out, like the finding out he cheated on Valentine's Day. When that situation happened, it broke every little part inside of me that I thought I healed, because honestly, without even trying, I reverted back to that girl who listened to John tell me constantly that I was never going to be enough, that nobody would ever want to deal with that my body was gross and disgusting. And I used that internally after this previous situation happened to tell myself, like, that's why it happened. That's why it happened. That's why you can't open up to people, because at the end of the day, it's going to always tarnish how they see you and how they view you. And it's sad because I genuinely can sit here and tell you that I don't think that's a experience that I will ever share with any other person. After both relationships, having shared it and feeling like it made us closer, feeling like they could understand me more, it did nothing but cause more damage in both relationships. I genuinely feel, because whether it was the first one, him being the person to really instill those thoughts, and the second relationship, it always being a problem, because going through this relationship, the first one, y'all, with John, and the way he talked down to me constantly and made me feel like I was delusional for crying, for crying when he would yell at me for things I didn't do, when he would accuse me of things that I didn't do, and when I would cry, he would get so annoyed. He would get so annoyed. He did not have a compassionate bone in his body. There was one day, it was like his birthday week, and I took him to Lake Geneva. I went out, bought him a nice dinner, what I felt was like a nice dinner or lunch, whatever the fuck it was. We went to the beach, and he sat there going on a temper tantrum for 25 minutes, telling me that this was the worst birthday, that if he would have known that this was all I had planned for him, he would have done this, and that. He could have gone out with this, and that person. And like, I sat there in the car with my head like this, and he's over there just like going in on me, how I'm such a terrible girlfriend, how I don't do anything for him, how this, that, and the other, how I made this trip out to be something so much more special, and it wasn't, when I literally, guys, did every single thing for him that day. On top of getting him a birthday gift, I got him like $100 cologne, I brought him some food, like I did everything I could. Come on, like I was a junior in high school. I didn't have the funds to be doing all of this shit, but I did everything I could for him. And he sat there for 25 minutes just ranting to himself about how terrible his birthday was because of me. And it just like, I just sat there, and like for the very first time I broke, like all of me, because I was like, what did I do wrong? Like I did more for you than anybody else did. His parents, his own family did not buy him a birthday cake. I brought a birthday cake over to his house for us to sing happy birthday to him. I took him on this trip. I tried to make him feel so special, and he sat there in my face just complaining about how I didn't do enough. And when he turned and he saw me crying, it's like for once I saw a little bit of empathy in him, and he completely changed, and he was like, I'm sorry. I didn't know you were crying that hard. I'm sorry. I've never seen you cry like that. And I'm sitting there like, I don't cry because you yell at me for crying, but like, what else do I do? And I've said everything I need to say, and like you still find something to be upset about and mad about. And it's something that I carried on into my next relationship, and it was something that ended up being a problem because I would just shut down. I got to the point where the previous relationship that I was in, that I just got out of, I got to the point where confrontation made me shut down. I could not find any way to fix my mouth to say words. I would sit there in silence for sometimes hours and not say anything because I was so conditioned to anything I said being wrong. John made me feel like whatever I said was wrong, and he would yell at me until I stopped talking. Until I stopped talking. He would yell at me over and over and over and over and over again, through the tears, through everything. And I was never even disrespectful. I would still sit here after he broke me down as a person, and I would be like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to upset you. I didn't think that would upset you over shit there was no reason for him to be upset over, him accusing me of cheating when I never had, when he had been treating our entire relationship. I sat there and I apologized. I'm sorry that I did this and it made you feel insecure. I'm sorry I did this and it made you feel like I was not faithful. Like, I love you. I'm sorry. And through my through my I'm sorries, he would constantly sit there and be like, I'm sorry is not enough. Do you understand what you're doing to me? Do you understand how selfish you are? Do you understand that there are a world of girls out there that would love to be blah, 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 blah? Like, no, there fucking wasn't. No, there fucking wasn't. There was nobody. Okay, like, maybe his little ex, Rat, yeah. She was, like, somehow fucking trauma bonded to him. When I tell you, I could never have beef with this girl because she was so delusional in her infatuation with him, just like me, because he had love bombed the fuck out of her. He treated her like shit, too. Now, I don't think it was ever nearly as bad as me, because when I shared, like I said, that experience with him, something about his personality changed towards me forever, where he, like, had a disgust with me deep down internally. Like, I just disgusted him, and he would always compare me to her, and he would always be like, you know, like, Rat does this for me, she does that for me, she always did this for me. I never had to ask her to do this. She was this, she was that, she was prettier, her boobs were bigger, blah, 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 whatever. He always fucking compared me to her, and I always sat there and I took it. Never again will it be a girl that sits there and takes the disrespect like I did with this person. But I genuinely felt like what I had gone through was so fresh that I felt like I was less of a person, and he took that and ran. He ran with it, and he used it to justify every single thing he ever did. So later on, one day, I was at work. It was over the summer. I was nannying for this single dad and his kids. That's another fucking story time, because that dad was so fucking creepy. Oh my gosh, I've dealt with some creepy fathers in my nannying. I need like a nanny story time like Alexis Jada has, because I've been through some families, y'all. And the men that I've encountered in some of these families are suspect, really fucking creepy. But I'm at work one day. His friend, we'll call him, Snake, because that's what he is. He calls me on like 100, because they would always fall out and get back as friends, and fall out and get back as friends. And like, he called me one day and he was like, by the way, John has been sleeping with Rat, blah, blah, blah. He's been cheating on you, blah, blah, blah. And I sat there, I listened to him, and it was so sad. I didn't believe him. I didn't believe that John had been cheating on me in this relationship. It's so sad. I sat there and I was like, no, he didn't. Like, yeah, you're just saying this because you're mad at him. Like, if this was the case, you would have told me a long time ago. And like, he was being honest. He was being honest with this information that John had been sleeping with Rat pretty much our entire relationship. Anytime we weren't together, they were together. And I was so delusional that I thought, no way, no way, no way. And I didn't believe it. And it's sad looking back on it, because I was so small internally. I was so much less of a person than I was used to being. My confidence was gone completely. And it made me feel like I needed to stay in this relationship, because I'm not saying every single one of our days were bad. 98% of them were bad. But the 2% where he told me I was pretty, or where he told me I made him so happy, or he appreciated what I did for him, or my family loved him, or his family loved me, when he gave me like that 2% of himself, that was what I needed, because I was so used to him being so mean, So mean. Mean is the most important, crucial word I can tell you guys. He was mean. And I was not. I'm still not a mean person. Like, yeah, there's a side of me that can come out when you cross a line, but I didn't have hurt back then. I hadn't discovered that side of me. I was just kind and gracious and apologetic for things that I was not wrong on. And he was just so mean. He was so mean. Everything. Like, I would literally be in his kitchen cleaning the kitchen for his family because they had like hosted like a party of some sort, right? And I would be in there scrubbing dishes just because I understood that he wasn't doing shit to help around the house, and I felt bad because I was taking up some of his time. So like, let me be the responsible one and fucking help. Every time I went there, I helped because I saw them as my family, and I felt disrespectful just going off into the basement doing our own thing, knowing that they're upstairs like scrubbing shit. You know what I mean? Like, I would go over, I would cook for them, I would literally do everything I could. And he just still treated me like shit. Always. For nothing. I never cheated on him. I never spoke to another guy during our relationship. Ever. Ever. He slept with multiple girls throughout our relationship that I wouldn't find out until later. And looking back on it, that's why he was so mad. That's why he hated me so much. I genuinely look back on it and feel like he did hate me as everything that I was. And he hated me because of who he was to me. He knew deep down in his heart that I never did anything that he accused me of. That I was not that person, because I wasn't. I never gave him any reason. He could look on my Snapchat. He could log in my Instagram. He did. He did always. And he was so insecure in the fact that I was a genuinely good person, that him being who he was to me, despite all of that, made him angry. And it made him hate me. And it's so sad because I wanted nothing but him to love me, and for him to want me, and for him to show me that I was enough, to stop comparing me to all of these girls. Like, he sat there and fixed his mouth to tell me that my best friend was more his type than I was. And I sat there and I took it, and it was like nothing ever even. And it's sad. It's so sad because I've met people along the way who have that same comment to say, or say like, it would be so hot if you guys made out, you know, like always having some shit to say about my best friend. My best friend. Of all people, like, why are you comparing me to my best friend? Like, if that's more your type, then fine. Like, I don't understand what he gained from telling me shit like that. And I swear, like, that same conversation came up in my last relationship. Like, what the fuck? Like, what the fuck? Like, why? Why do people get in a relationship if I'm clearly not your type? For you to just tell me how different I am from all of your exes and how your exes did this. Like, why am I in a relationship for you to just compare and tell me how I'm not enough for you? When I do more than they ever did for you. I give you more of me than they ever did. And I'm kinder to you. His family hated his ex. Hated her. Despised her. She was not allowed in the fucking house. They loved me because I loved them. And I was willing to put aside all of his shit. All of it. To be a good person to his family and to be a good person to him. And I thought that I could fix him. He was the one guy I thought I could fix. And I never went back to trying to fix someone. Ever again. But I genuinely felt in my heart and in my soul, if I showed him enough kindness and grace and faith. And, you know, like, I would go to his aunt's house and she was very religious, and I would pray for our meal, and, like, she understood. She understood. She had went through so much shit that was so similar to me, and she understood. She never shamed me. She wanted to have a conversation about it with me, about the sexual abuse and the trauma, and she understood it. And I thought her understanding it and her explaining it to him would make him feel a little less fucking comfortable yelling at me for shit I couldn't change. And, like, we connected on, I feel like, a spiritual level, on a deeper level, because she understood where I was and she understood how broken I was. And I think every single one of his family members wanted better for me. They never had anything bad to say about me because I wasn't bad. And I feel like I brought out good things in him, and like there were little things, guys, like he was trying to get a job and he had a question on tax, on like the taxes, the tax forms. He had a question. And I had just gone through consumer ed. I had just learned how to fill out my taxes. I don't even say this in like just like any kind of way. I genuinely wanted to help him, and I told him the answer to his question. And he looked at me with disgust, like absolute disgust on his face. And he was like, "You think you're better than me? You think you're smarter than me?" And I was sitting here like, "Babe, no, I'm just trying to like explain, like I just learned this today, you know, like this is what you feeling for that." And he got so mad at me. And once again, he retreated to him yelling at me, to me thinking I'm so much better than him, that I treat him like he's dumb. He was fucking dumb. Look, guys, this man was so fucking dumb. If I wanted to treat him like he was stupid, I could have. He couldn't spell, he couldn't speak, he would use incorrect terms for everything. Everything. I was so much smarter than this person. And I never, ever made him feel like that. Ever. Ever. In our entire relationship, I never made him feel like I was better than. I was always watering down what I said to make him feel like he was intelligent. He was not. And I don't mean that as a diss. He just, dropping out of high school had done something to him. It's like he stopped the growth. He was stuck there. And he was not a very intelligent person, and I still saw past that. How? I don't know, because how can I ever even have an emotionally intelligent conversation with a person who doesn't even know how to finish a proper sentence? I don't know. He couldn't spell. His handwriting was shit. And here I was, still trying to help him. And he's trying to yell at me for making him feel dumb, when in reality, he was just a little slow. Just a little bit slow, okay? And I don't have any fucking feelings over it anymore. Like, I can sit here and say how I genuinely feel, but he just was a shitty person, y'all. He was a shitty person. And our relationship ended after I found out he cheated with his ex-girlfriend. Eventually, he told me one day in an argument, he said, "And by the way, I've been fucking rat." Okay. After that, we tried it again. Stupid me, boo-boo the fool me, decided to try a relationship with him again. And I couldn't look at him the same. I could no longer look at him the same. I gave him a second chance, and he didn't change. And he was still so rude, so belittling, such a dick of a person that I couldn't. And the sad part is, he was the one who broke up with me. Twice. He broke up with me. He said that he just like couldn't see a relationship with me anymore. And ironically, it was after he had a conversation with my father for the second time, because my parents were pissed off at him for how he had treated me for so long. And when we decided to get back together, my dad was like, "Have him come over." They went in the office. I don't know what they talked about. They talked for a good 30 minutes. I will never know what they talked about. Neither of them told me. The next morning, he broke up with me. And that was that. That was the end of our relationship. I had found out that he, later on, after our relationship, that he had been sleeping with multiple people all of the time, yet somehow always demanded sex from me, always wanted sex from me. Like, a part of me feels like he was some kind of sex addict or something, because it's like he always wanted it from me, but in the same sentence would tell me how my body disgusted him, and things I went through made me gross and made me undesirable, and it was disgusting, and that's why he cheated. He cheated because he couldn't deal with my past. He acted like I was sitting here getting ran through. No. I was sexually assaulted, and I shared that with you, so you understood why I had boundaries around sex. And yet he demanded it all the time. It was never fucking enjoyable. It was terrible. It was terrible. It was just terrible. I have nothing else to say to that. It was terrible because I never wanted it. And he was pushy. And he lied about so much shit. So much shit, guys. And if I ever make a part 2 on this video, it will be with receipts. Because when I tell you this man created a different reality for everything, when he put his hands on me, he literally, it was crazy, because this friend of his, Snake, had like brought it up one time and told him, you know, like, he said something. He insinuated that he had put his hands on me. And this man texted me. He texted me and he fixed his mouth to ask me if he had ever put his hands on me because he couldn't remember. Okay. I still have the pictures. It's sad that he doesn't remember the level of rage he had, but there was one time, I had a black eye, I would have bruises on my arms, and like, it's sad. It's sad that he really thought he could manipulate me into believing that he didn't do that because he didn't remember it. And it just goes to show who he was when he was mad. And it's crazy, guys, because I had a couple of story times about him up on my channel months and months ago. And at first he was very kind. He left a long comment on a YouTube video saying like, I'm a beautiful person, like I got so much ahead of, so much life to live, and he's found God. He deeply regrets how he treated me. That's his one biggest regret in life, was how he treated me. And after I released the second story time, old John was back. And he was sitting there telling me that I'm trying to destroy his character, that he's got friends sending me his video. Bullshit. That's bullshit. That's fucking bullshit. I know for a fact that nobody sent anything to him because I had told nobody that I was posting these videos. Absolutely nobody. You either were subscribed to me before or you looked me up. There's no way anybody sent you my videos. I'm looking at the analytics like, what? This video has not been shared at all. Huh? And he jumped at my throat telling me I was trying to destroy his character. I was trying to pop up back in his life. Like, no, you don't get to tell me what I'm allowed to share. And I removed those videos and I regret it to this day because he had no right to tell me not to share my experiences. You don't get to hurt me, be abusive to me, and be so upset that I share my experience. I haven't said your name. I haven't inserted screenshots. I haven't done anything. I could sit here and give the girls all of the screenshots and all of the receipts, but I didn't out of respect for you. I could have sat here with your full government name and told everybody the shit that we went through, and I only gave like a very glossy version of it. I didn't even go deep. I didn't go deep into the text messages, into the crazy ass voicemails, into the shit you would leave on my car. Like, I didn't go into any of the stalker version of you. Nothing. So I post this video today because I have every right to. Because I have every right to share an experience. I shared a very watered down version of it, in fact. And if he has anything to say at this point, it's going to be, you're blocked. You are blocked because nobody knows who you are. You are not that relevant in anyone's life for them to know who the fuck I'm talking about unless you are a close person in my life. Okay? And they already know everything that's happened. So what's the beef? What's the issue? Nobody out here knows who the fuck you are. You're not that important. I'm sorry. And so I'm posting this again. I will not remove it because I deserve to be heard and I am allowed to share my experiences, and how you hurt me is my experience. Okay? And I'm sharing that, and that's it. So if I drop a part 2 with receipts, let me know, guys. Leave in the comments if you want a part 2 or more in-depth story time on this toxic ex. But John really was a manipulative fucking asshole. Such an asshole. So many mind fuck games that I can't even begin to tell you about. And I'm sorry for my my swearing, but this person had me all the way messed up. But yeah, that is the story of kind of the beginning and the very prompt end. We were together for over, a year and a half, and there were times where we were back and forth after that, but he really was a mental mind sore. And that's a relationship I will forever regret to this day. Never look back. I could never see that person the same. Who he is, karma got his ass. And it shows. It shows in how he looks now, the way that his life is going. It's just like, I can say and sit here and lie and pray that I wish the best for him, but I genuinely don't. Because who he showed me, even after all of this, him being that kind person in one comment and the next completely switching shows me that he's made no progress. He has not changed. He will forever be who he was. He wants zero accountability, and the shitty person that he was, he's not changed. He's not changed shit. Not one thing, which is why I'm so comfortable posting this story time. And there is a lot more where this came from. So thank you guys for watching. If you stuck it out this long, thank you. Join the group chat down below. I've got a couple of you. I'm just waiting for a few more, and then I'll approve the next batch of people so we could start and introduce ourselves. And thank you guys genuinely for taking the time to watch my videos. Like I said, you guys are getting me so close to being monetized and having ads. Like I cannot believe it. You guys have skyrocketed my growth. I'm small right now, obviously, but you guys have been so supportive, and your watch time, you guys subscribing, you guys hitting the bell, like you don't understand how much you are helping me. Your comments, I love them. I love to respond to them, get to know you guys a little better. It's sad to see that we can relate on so much shit, but thank you genuinely guys for being here. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. I love you guys so much. Leave a comment down below on your thoughts, your feelings, any video requests you may have. Join the group chat if you want to be a part of the Girls Girl community. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video.